Okay.
And without any further ado, I'd like to introduce today's speaker and my friend Doris Stanger. Doris is one of those members that any organization is truly blessed to have. If there's a job to be done, Doris raises her hand and says, I can do that. She gets the job done, does it incredibly well, and never stops smiling and making others smile. She has served for the last several years as leader of the DA Spain Women's Caucus and recently stepped up to serve as DA Barcelona's vice chair when the previous vice chair had to step down. She's also coordinating the DA Spain phone banking team and is super active in the Rock the Vote initiative here in Barcelona to register students to vote. Along the way, she helped to run the global presidential primary, and she's done about a dozen other things that I can't even think of right now. And in her free time, Doris has put together today's presentation, which will deal with the effect that Project 2025 will have on women. Spoiler alert, it's not pretty. During the presentation, please do not interrupt. If you have questions, please type * hand up in the chat box and make a note to yourself about what you wanted to say. I will keep track of the queue, and then Doris can take questions in the end in the order that they were asked. So thank you all for coming, and Doris, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. And that was very sweet, Annie. I had no idea you were going to say that. So thank you. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, I hope you can all see that. Just a little bit of information about how this came about. Way back a million years ago in July of 2024, Annie and I were discussing future La Luchas, and a woman in the Global Caucus named Judith Sullivan had sent out a document to all of us highlighting the parts of the Project 2025 that were related to women, and I really felt that the word had to get out. It didn't seem like anyone was talking about it. They are now, including Kamala Harris in her acceptance speech. But it seemed at the time that no one was talking about or talking very much about Project 2025, and it just felt like the word needed to get out. So this seemed like a good opportunity to do that. A lot has happened since July of 2024, and we're in a whole new world. And like I said before, everybody is now talking about Project 2025, but not everyone is talking about how it will affect women. Many times in this presentation, I've just got quotes. I'm going to let the project speak for itself. And at some points, I will try to link the project with what's already happened in the past and how it will affect and what's happening in the present. So it's not something that's so obscure that we can't relate it to what's actually going on. Okay, so let's get started. Here are my the main points that I plan to talk about. A little definition of what it is, who's behind it, the Trump connection, and the things that relate to women: families, marriage, fetal personhood, scary, gender, abortion, the government agencies that will be used to impose this way of thinking, the Comstock Act, the use of data, the Department for Life, which is what they want to call the Health and Human Services Department, birth control, worldwide implications, and will we be able to demonstrate if we want to? Okay, so first of all, Project 2025 is 3 steps or 4 pillars, depending on who you talk to. The first part we're all aware with is called Mandate for Leadership. It's around a 900-word document, and that's what we're all talking about now. The second part or pillars, my neighbor's dog is barking. The second part or pillars 2 and 3 is the presidential personnel database. This actually exists. You can Google it. You can apply if you want a job. And the presidential personnel database is, let's see, it's looking for around 150,000 people who obviously agree philosophically with Project 2025, so that they could replace lifelong civil servants with the next Republican administration. the civil servants would all be fired under something called Schedule F. Schedule X would, it was actually signed into law by Trump at the end of his administration. It was one of the first things that Biden did when he became president was to rescind this law. We have to be careful. Project 2025 is not some dream. As you can see from the quote here, Project 2025 is not a pie in the sky policy agenda full of bold but empty promises. It is crafted to be a list of things that the next president appointee can really do. The fourth or the third, depending on your point of view, is a 180-day playbook. And interestingly enough, this has not been made public.
Gracias.
As explained in the excellent webinar hosted by Democrats Abroad with the historian Thomas Zimmer, and I quote him here, the belief behind this document is that the natural order is in air quotes, for the United States is based on white Christian patriarchal domination. These people know they are not the majority, but believe they can impose their views by using the vast machines of the US government. Okay, so the Heritage Foundation and Trump. The Heritage Foundation, as we all know, is a conservative think tank, and they, along with 100 other conservative organizations, such as Family Policy Alliance and Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, are the authors of this document. The Heritage Foundation at this moment is being headed by Kevin Roberts. These organizations have not suddenly appeared out of nowhere, or with the Trump administration. The work that has created this movement and their eventual takeover of many state governments and court systems started all the way back in the 1960s, according to Nancy McLean in her excellent book, Democracy in Chains. And she says, this is a step-by-step integrated long game for shackling democracy so to enrich corporate power. And then with the Trump administration, these wealthy industrialists, such as the Koch brothers, I think it's pronounced, started funding the right-wing MAGA groups. So, despite his statement that Donald Trump put out on Truth Social that he knows nothing about Project 2025, but he does wish them luck, and the corresponding statement Kevin Roberts put out a few days later, so no hard feelings from any of us at Project 2025. We understand that Trump is making a political tactical decision. Trump's name actually appears 312 times in the document, as you can see from this word search. By the way, as you can see, this document's available in PDF, and I've got a link at the end of the presentation if you want to actually try to read it. It's also important to keep in mind that more than 24 people who served in Trump's administration helped craft this document. I would give some more Trump quotes, but he has flip-flopped so many times in the last couple of weeks, I just figured it's not worth trying to keep up with it. And so we'll move directly on to how this will affect women. And warning, we are getting into handmaiden tale territory. We'll start with marriage and families and then move on to fetal personhood. I will give you a moment to read the quotes to let the document speak for itself. We will soon look at, in more detail, at HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services. What are the consequences of some of these statements? Well, let's take a look at one, Title X. Title X is the country's federally funded family planning program, which provides millions of dollars to ensure people have access to low and no-cost contraception. We already know that conservatives want to gut the program. Republicans' latest funding proposal would cut over $280 million from Title X, but Project 2025 goes even further. The document seeks to reframe the program to focus on fertility awareness and holistic family planning. And I think we can all guess what that means. and to provide educational information on healthy marriages and relationships. Under Project 2025, people who go to federally funded clinics for affordable birth control would instead be told to get married. What's more, Project 2025 calls for the end of religious discrimination in grant selections for Title X. What this means in plain English is that they want to give those millions of family planning dollars to crisis pregnancy centers and other religious groups that oppose abortion and even birth control. What are crisis pregnancy centers? These are places that look like a clinic to go to for help in unwed pregnancy, including a place that provides abortion services. However, they are actually anti-abortion and do everything in their power to persuade women not to terminate the pregnancy, including giving them distorted and false information about abortion, as has been seen in the excellent documentary film Preconceived. Just to give you an idea of the omnipresence of CPCs today, in the blue state of California, there are at least 176 crisis pregnancy centers, according to CalMatters analysis. That compares to 166 abortion centers. While in red states, as I'm sure you can imagine, the ratio is far worse. For example, in Kansas, which has legalized abortion up to 22 weeks, crisis pregnancy centers outnumber clinics that provide abortion by more than 6 to 1. And we have to remain diligent here in Europe. Undercover reporters working for Open Democracy, an independent international media platform, contacted heartbeat affiliated centers, otherwise CPCs, operating in Spain, Italy, Ireland, Romania, Serbia, Croatia, Ukraine, and the UK. Not surprisingly, here in Spain, political party Vox supports these centers. Okay, fetal personhood. Again, I'll give you a minute to read the first two quotes coming directly from Project 2025. And I'm going to get a drink of water. Okay, regarding the first quote, one of Project 2025's contributors is Stephen Billy from the organization Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. In a leaked audio from a 2022 strategy session with Tennessee lawmakers, caught Billy advising Republicans on when and how to ban birth control and IVF. Another contributor, Russ Vaught, was the policy director for the GOP platform writing committee and someone the organized Students for Life once called Trump's most pro-life member. Extreme anti-choice groups that are part of Project 2025 are pushing Republicans as well to gut access to IVF. If you take a look at the second quote, I have I put bold, human life from day one. How is day one defined? Take a look at this quote from, well, I'm going to read, well, this quote as well in purple, from Mary Zeidler, a UC Davis law professor and author of a number of books about abortion and the law. She says, embryonic personhood is the end game of the anti-abortion movement, and now seems possible that it may happen through the court system. The fetal personhood amendment has been on the Republican Party platform since the 1980s and is considered to be the North Star of the anti-abortion movement. Gender. Again, I will let the document speak for itself, especially the first quote in which every possible term of gender is trying to be deleted. This document calls for the abolishing of the Gender Policy Council and having a presidential appointee with the rank of Special Assistant to the President to lead the President's domestic priorities on issues related to life and family. And we can only imagine what their definition of family is. of course, the most traditional available. Okay, abortion and reproductive health care. In regards to abortion, Project 2025 proposes mobilizing an array of government agencies to curb access to abortion, up to and including a national ban on abortion pills. That would affect even states that protect abortion rights. Let's take a further look at what the next Republican administration will do and how they will use government agencies for the purpose of controlling women. Again, I'll give you a moment to read. What I'm going to read now, it comes directly from the foreword of Project 2025 on page 6. Conservatives in the states and in Washington, D.C., including the next conservative administration, should push as hard as possible to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America. In particular, the next conservative president should work with Congress to enact the most robust protections for the unborn that Congress will support, while deploying existing federal powers to protect innocent life and vigorously complying with statutory bans on the federal funding of abortion. One of the options they give is adoption. Needless to say, only white Christian cisgender couples would be eligible to adopt in any government-funded program. Project 2025 says many times over that abortion is not health care and that it is not necessary to save a woman's life. When citing maternal death rates, for example, the document insists this problem is not solved by abortion. Here are some examples of the opinion to the attitude towards abortion for those who are serving in our military or under government guardianship. The first for the woman who's serving in the military, again, if you take a look, is saying that the VA should not provide any abortion service whatsoever, that it's not in the realm of what they should be dealing with. And the second one is regarding unaccompanied minors. During the Trump administration, officials at the Office of Refugee and Resettlement, which cares for minors who cross the border without parents or guardians, refused to let teen girls get abortions until a court ordered them to do so. In light of Roe's demise, Project 2025 wants the ORR to once again refuse to facilitate abortions. If that refusal leads to a lawsuit, the playbook wants a conservative administration to fight to defend that policy up to the U.S. Supreme Court. A specific case of this, of a minor seeking an abortion, can be read about in Chapter 5 of Dahlia Lithwick's excellent book, Lady Justice, Chapter 5 called Abortion at the Border. In this case, which took place in Texas during the Trump administration, a 17-year-old illegal immigrant discovered that she was 9 weeks pregnant while in custody. Thanks to a savvy lawyer, the nonprofit organization Jane's Due Process, in a middle of the night trip to an abortion clinic, she managed to get the abortion that she requested. Others were not so lucky. I'll read the first quote. Project 2025's whole of government approach to dismantling reproductive rights by weaponizing federal agencies and consolidating executive branch power is unprecedented and goes against most Americans' wishes. We'll take a look at the 2 quotes. They're referring to the FDA. And again, I'll give you a moment to read, and then we'll talk about the second quote. In the second quote, you can see, stop promoting or approving mail-order abortions in violations of long-standing federal laws that prohibit the mailing of and interstate carriage of abortion drugs. And by that, they're referring to the Comstock Act, which we'll look at in the next slide. Project 2025 takes direct aim at abortion pills, indicating that fetuses should have legal rights, back to fetal pilot, and seeks to expand surveillance of abortion while eliminating government support for the procedure. In its architect's view, abortion is not health care and should never be treated as such. This year, the U.S. Supreme Court rejected a lawsuit from anti-abortion activists who wanted to reverse the FDA's approval of, I always have trouble with this word, mifepristone, a common abortion pill, ruling unanimously that the activists did not have the legal standing to sue. But a Project 2025 proposal suggests avoiding the courts altogether and instead having the FDA reverse its 2000 approval of mifepristone altogether. That reversal would yank the drug from the market. The DOJ is also being used to enforce existing federal laws prohibiting mailing abortifacients rather than harassing pro-life demonstrators. And federal law prohibits distribution of abortion drugs by postal mail. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the Comstock Act, and the picture is Mr. Comstock himself. So what is this? Again, I quote Mary Ziegler, who said, the Comstock Act is the centerpiece of Project 2025. While the document does not cite the Comstock Act by name, it refers to and links the zombie obscenity law several times in the document, calling it the end of mail order abortions. Project 2025's most audacious proposal may be the easiest to enact. The playbook suggests that a future conservative administration enforce the Comstock Act, a 151-year-old law, anti-obscenity law that prohibits the mailing of abortion-related materials, to ban people from shipping abortion pills. Because abortion clinics rely on the mail to send and receive the pills, as do the advocates who help people induce their own abortions, enforcing the Comstock Act could result in de facto national ban on medicated abortions. And something I forgot to mention before, anti-abortion, what they call abortifacients, can be defined as IUDs and the birth control pill. So we're quick ban. Once again, Mary Ziegler, in her excellent podcast talking to Molly Jung Fine, I believe her name is, called Project 2025. There's a podcast just on women's issues. And she says, the Comstock Act is an 1873 obscenity law, where obscenity was defined as things that make people want to have sex they shouldn't have. This included abortion, contraception, and information about them. It was ignored for years, in part because of a lack of enforcement, the passing of Roe v. Wade, and some judicial decisions from the 1930s, saying that it was unenforceable. It became a zombie law. However, it is now being brought back to life with changing court decisions. Data collection. Again, I will give you a few minutes and give me a chance to stop talking to read the quotes on the screen. Data collection has become one of the fastest growing anti-abortion strategies since Roe was overturned. From laws forcing doctors to ask women invasive questions and report their answers, to the fabrication of abortion complication data. In Project 2025, conservatives' obsession with data is clearer than ever. The document calls for the CDC, which will be housed under the Department for Life, which we'll get to soon, is to create a national abortion database and adopt a surveillance system requiring all states to report exactly how many abortions take place within its borders. But here's the thing. While Project 2025 calls this abortion data, what they're really talking about is pregnancy data. Under Trump presidency, this mandate wouldn't just require states to report abortions, it would require reporting any pregnancy that does not end in a live birth. The document says the CDC should collect data on every abortion, miscarriage, stillbirth, and even treatments that incidentally result in the death of a child, such as chemotherapy. Perhaps you've seen the ad put out by the Lincoln Project of a girl and her father being arrested for trying to cross state lines. It's scary, but unfortunately, it is not far-fetched. Again, I'll give you a moment to read the quotes. The Department for Life. Project 2025 calls for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to become the Department for Life. Under this new name, the government would track women's pregnancies, including abortions, miscarriages, and stillbirths, dismantle sex education, replace birth control programs with fertility awareness, and marriage promotion programs. It allows employees to refuse birth control coverage, allows healthcare providers and pharmacists to refuse to dispense medication they morally oppose, and divert childcare funding into programs that push women to stay at home. MSNBC's Ali Valishi interviewed Kathleen Sibelius, and I'm not sure I'm saying that right, who was a former director of the Health and Human Services and former Democratic governor of Kansas, to discuss how Project 2025 would change the purpose and name of this federally funded program. She says, and again, I'm quoting her, "The name change to the Department of Life would clearly define its focus. This department would no longer be about healthcare at all. There would be a focus on women's health and not only reproductive care. By cutting Medicaid, which is predominantly used by women, they would cut overall access to healthcare for women. By enforcing the Comstock Act, access to mifepristone and contraceptive would be cut off. The Health and Human Services Department would be turned into an abortion ban enforcement agency who are not interested in life, they are interested in forced birth. By controlling women's ability to make her by controlling a woman's ability to make her own choices. They don't care about what happens once the baby is born. We can see an example of this. Again, I'm going to refer back to the documentary Preconceived. In that documentary, one of the main protagonists of the film that the filmmakers followed had been convinced not to have an abortion. She had her baby. She had a woman from a CPC who was taking care of her, giving her supplies, supporting her with supplies of diapers and baby clothes. And while on camera, the woman, the young mother who was about to lose her housing, asked if they gave help with housing. She got a very vague response. And later on in the film, you find out that not only did they not give her help with housing, they also, once the baby was born, pretty much forgot about her altogether. The makers of the documentary set up a GoFundMe page for this young mother. On to the CDC. Okay, again, I'll give you a moment to read. I especially like the second one. Risk avoidance should be prioritized, and any program that submits a proposal that promotes risk rather than health should not be eligible for funding. By risk avoidance, they basically saying don't have sex. And, oh, I missed one. Sorry, there we go. And, oh, wait, I went too far. How do I get back? 1 second. Sorry. I'm gonna escape because why? I skipped a slide by mistake. And I'm not getting back. There we go. Okay. USAID. And let's go back. Okay. Give it a sec. All right. So, worldwide implications. USAID would, as you can see, would not carry out or promote or fund abortion, international programs, or multilateral organizations. And you've got a second quote about Biden. I love the last bit. Contrary to current publicity, this problem is not solved by abortion. Families generally cherish children. It's like, who doesn't cherish children? Anyway. So again, from Project 2025, page 291. The next conservative administration should rename the office, the USAID Office of Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment to the USAID Office of Women, Children, and Families, and refocus and realign their resources. I mean, we can just imagine how that would, what that would imply. So, assuming let's just pretend that Trump gets reelected. Hope it doesn't happen, but just in case. And Project 2025 is clearly not the will of the majority of Americans. I think our visceral reaction would be to protest or to organize demonstrations. We need to be careful about that. While Project 2025 does not specifically say that the military be used to put down protests by American citizens, you can see from the quote, Project 2025's partisan recommendations for our common defense should be of great concern to all Americans because, if implemented, it would grant vast powers to the next conservative president. Keep in mind, while in his first term of office, Trump never realized his expansive vision of using troops to enforce the law on U.S. soil. However, he has made it clear that he intends to use the military for a range of domestic law enforcement purposes, including patrolling the border, suppressing protests that he deems to have turned into riots, and even fighting crime in big cities run by Democrats. And so we come to Pillar 4, the last pillar, and it says, we are forming agency teams and drafting transition plans to move out upon the president's utterance of, so help me God. So what can we do? Oh, wow. Again, I skipped a slide. Okay, I'm just going to go and get out of here, and I'm not going to just go to my what can we do page. Okay, well, obviously, get out the vote. Sign up for voter assistance training, so phone bank, sign up for phone bank training if you haven't done that. Sign up for tiny actions, which is like small things we can all do. Spread the word, tell everyone what a Trump administration will look like. And my last slide is just my sources. And that is the end. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see people and open up the chat. So, Annie, you're on.
Okay, thank you. That was kind of sobering. It was very sobering.